Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a Twin Soul Channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Cancer that took place January 17th, 2022, 6:48 p.m., Miami, Florida. I just want to go ahead and say thank you for your patience as I got around to recording this content. Not for all, but for many of both my clients and for me, this particular passage has been extremely challenging for various reasons, which I'm going to talk about here. But some of the angles of the full moon and the placements with some of the retrograding planets have presented some very challenging material for me to work through personally. And I wanted to make sure I got clear with those things so that I didn't bring them into what I was seeing for the collective as I brought this information to you. I did consider just not doing a recording for this lunation, but it just seems like what's presenting in my client sessions, it's too important to skip. So hopefully this recap provides you with some insight, guidance, and solace if you as well might be having a challenging experience as we move through this energy. This particular full moon took place over here at the 27th degree of Cancer, late degree Cancer. We've got the sun sitting here with Pluto opposing the full moon, and conjunct Juno as well. And there's Juno in blue sitting right next to Pluto. With a full moon that represents culmination in our emotional worlds, Cancer being about our emotions, and specifically Pluto bringing forward the emotions that are our shadow emotions. So fear, shame, guilt, control, manipulation, being behaviors pertaining to those, grief, sadness, loss. And then the relationship asteroid planet, I like to consider Juno a planet, sitting with it. What we have here at this lunation is a definitive completion of certain emotional cycles inside of relationships. And for some of you, this is going to play out more in the world of work and relationships to money, and some of the ways in which your relationship to money has had an impact on your emotional world, or your emotional world has had an impact on your relationship to money and work. And the certain cycles that keep repeating themselves in your relationship to work and money. For others, this is going to specifically be about love, and there's no way for it to be otherwise with the love and partnership planet Juno playing such a central role at this full moon in Cancer. Because this full moon is also trining Neptune here, we have a spiritual aspect to this where spiritual awareness and insight is filtering through if we're willing to be still enough to listen. And we have a square to Eris, and Eris bringing forward the energy that is saying, okay, when is it going to be my turn? When is it going to be my turn to have a seat at the table? Eris reminds us all of where we have felt disenfranchised from life's goodness and gives us the opportunity to find our way toward where we actually belong, for where there is a seat at the table for us, and where and how we need to create that seat for ourselves instead of waiting for others to ask us to be seated. Ooh, it's an interesting and challenging energy. You can see here that there's a T-square, and every time I talk about a T-square, we need to lean into the sign conspicuous in its omission. And I almost want to say this is probably more of a cardinal grand cross if we include the creation goddess here in Libra. And this really talks about the need to bring challenging energies into balance and into coherence in our worlds at this time. there's a lot of awareness available as we deal with this energy, a lot of tension. That is, the awareness is allowing us, we're getting awareness through the tension, where we can feel like something has to be done, something's got to give, something needs to change, but what? And because Pluto is really at the backbone of this, as kind of the outermost planet, Pluto and Eris here being sort of like the furthest out and really being the anchor points of this energy, there many people's triggers are up. And what we're witnessing is what people do when they are very triggered. I know for me, I need to take some time to be quiet, to go within. But many people reach out and they need to feel anchored by other people. As they move through this, they try hard to not be alone, to do anything other than be alone and look for reassurance externally. So just depending upon what kind of person you are, as your triggers come up, you'll see what it is that your coping mechanism is. Interestingly enough, because of the nature of Pluto, there's a real, and Neptune here as well, unfortunately, there's a real potential to use some of our shadow coping mechanisms as Neptune trines this moon and sextiles Pluto and Juno. Some of our shadow coping mechanisms, specifically in the world of relating around codependency, and really needing that external validation at the moment in order to self-soothe, or being unsoothable without somebody else changing, fixing, doing something for us. And as I'm witnessing this unfold in my not my relationships, as I'm witnessing this unfold in my relationships with clients and my client sessions, is what I was going to say. Um, I'm hearing in my client sessions, certainly a level of blame, a level of, but it's their fault. They started it. They did this. They owe me that. Why can't they? They should understand X, Y, and Z. I'm hearing a level of kind of, what's the best way to put this? A real deep dive for a lot of people on, just their pain around what it means to be a twin, what the awakening process has been like, what it has ended in their world. Pluto does represent endings, and Juno represents divine feminine. So I'll talk more about that inside of the Twin Soul video for this lunation. But also just what it means to be connected, and the pain sometimes that happens when other people are in their shadow and they're interacting with us. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about that, both in their work world and, certain kind of calculations and manipulations and back and forth in the world of work with bosses and coworkers and people that report to them, as well as in their private lives and in their relationships. So it's not the easiest energy. And what I'll say about the best thing to do with it is to just be paying attention to what is coming up for you. This would be a time when, because there's so much tension in our interpersonal relationships, I know people, when tension comes up, there are certain people, and specifically certain signs of the zodiac, who are more prone to want to talk it out, work it through, to want to, somehow make things right, to figure things out. And I'm specifically thinking about Aries and Sag. I'm thinking about Aquarius and Libra. I'm thinking about maybe Capricorn a little bit. Certain signs and certain placements tend to really want to like, okay, let's pull back the curtain, let's figure this out, let's take off the hood, let's tinker with this, let's figure out how we can get to a good place. But in getting into the next planetary energies, I want to just, if you haven't already made the attempt, to just encourage you to wait. If you have, you're probably going to see what I'm about to say next. So we have Venus retrograde in full swing. And Venus has crossed over Pluto twice. She did this in December, making December and the early parts of January extraordinarily intense. When Venus and Pluto meet up, we get a lot of really deep, really intense alchemical energy in the world of love and money. And it can bring out a lot of our shadow sides in the world of love and money, where we want to control, where we insist that we will never be controlled, extremes in our energy around love and money, codependency, attachment, themes around enslavement and freedom, themes around, um, you know, the difference between being connected versus having an attachment. When I, if I were to try to really illuminate that, I would say, being connected is just recognizing that, there is a something here between me and this job or me and this person that feels like this is the right place for me to be at this time, and offering what I can offer. Being attached comes from the inverse energy of need, and really needing other people to be there to fulfill something in us. Um, and depending upon various situations in your own world, we all have different relationships to being attached or being attached to by other people. Some people refuse to ever experience attachment. Some people dive in head first, like attachment saves them from some of their own shadow emotions. And so we're really seeing some of and getting illumination around our relationship to that. When Venus and Pluto come together, that's one of their primary conversations that they're having, is one around, okay, are we what is my shadow and how is it impacting what I am doing with my money or in the world of love? So addictions can come up under this kind of energy, to sex for sure, with Venus in the picture and Pluto in the picture. Porn, addictions around, I would say, work for sure, in the sign of Capricorn here. We're talking about work addiction as well, and approval addiction in the sign of Capricorn. We're talking about addictions to like gambling and spending money. We're talking about addictions to, and this could potentially be shopping for some people, especially if you have like a lot of Libra placements. You might find that a shopping addiction may have gotten triggered during this lunation, or a lot of Taurus placements. But all in all, what this is asking us to do is to start to pay attention to what's underneath, right? If we're seeing the coping mechanism come out, it's because there's something that's begging for us to pay attention underneath. So, if addiction is something you struggle with, my strong recommendation would be to get the support that you need, find the support that you need, as you're able. But also, if it's not coming out in an addictive way, with the way Pluto and Venus can sometimes bring forward, especially when Neptune is in the mix, that patterning can be there. Pluto, Neptune, Venus can really bring forward a lot of that kind of needing to fill something in us, needing to deal with a trauma in us. There could also just be kind of like a checking out, like a shutting down and a dissociation at this time. So if you're noticing in some of your more important connections, there's some silence, where from a boss, like you're waiting for information and you just can't get the info you need and the time that you need it, or from a client, or from a family member, or from a loved one that you're trying to be connected with and work things through at this time. if you're finding that people are dissociating, shutting down, not connecting, know that they're as impacted by the energy as you are, number one. And number two, this is their way of trying to be with whatever the shadow energy is that's coming up, and to give them a little bit of room, a little bit of extra time. With this energy, like I said, because Venus is retrograde, our attachment function is receding. And because now we have Mercury retrograding as well, our communication function is also repressed. I'm finding in my sessions with clients that those who are really pushing to try and solve things at this time, figure things out, like literally right now, the last week and next week. And I would say this would be for the duration of the Mercury and Venus retrograde, to be honest with you. They're running into a lot of challenges and a lot of walls from other people. And where there has been force has been met with force. Where there has been a no, we will talk about this. We will work this out. You will talk to me. I will not be ignored. That force has been met with counter force from the other person, who shuts down, blocks them out, withdraws, builds a wall. I'm finding that there are things that are getting said between people that, frankly, they're going to have to get unsaid later, because they're like just not true in this energy. Certain things that are just kind of like reactionary in this energy are things that are happening. And it's, like I said, this energy has kind of been with us since December. So if you found that there have been breaks in your connection, breaks in your energy, this is why, with other people. And if you yourself have felt other people come in for you, like, no, you will deal with me, you will talk to me, and you lash out, give yourself a little bit of a break and some compassion. There is something inside of you that's like, okay, listen, we're having a reaction here. Let's deal with what the reaction is about before we actually deal with the person. And just let them know, like, look, I'm going to need some time before I can talk about this or deal with this or get into this with you. That would be my counsel on how to work with this energy, because when 100% of the energy that's here is exposing us to where our shadow is getting in the way of our progression, our soul's progression in life. This is a time for significant shadow work, significant shadow work. So my invitation to you is to try to dance more with your own shadow than dancing with other people if you can. And dance more with your own shadow rather than checking out, trying to numb out, trying to dissociate from the shadow. If you can, invite the storm, sit with it, ask the storm what's her message for you at this time. Because divine feminine and Pluto sitting together, Juno and Pluto, they definitely bring a message from our feminine creative life force energy that wants from us to be able to let go of certain ways in which we've repressed that life force energy at this time. And whether that's trying to get love or money from a source that cannot provide it, or whether that is trying to, render our services in an area of life and get hired in certain places where it's just not a match. And we need to reconfigure and regroup. Whatever it is in the realm of love and money, the shadow work is here and it is demanding our attention. So it's important to take the time to do that during this period of time. Mercury retrograde, January 13th through February 3rd. So we are definitely in the midst of that. We're about 10 days in, 11 days in. And what I would say is that energy continues. So Mercury is going to back up. We're going to see Mercury get pretty close to Pluto here. And that's the real danger zone. Let me give you a date for that, so that you know, the closer we get to Pluto, kind of the harder this gets in the world of communication, the more People are kind of digging into some of their thinking and thoughts. Oh, maybe it doesn't get too close to Pluto. Thank God. It does not. Yay. Hopefully, maybe I'm wrong. Let me just double check. February 13th. Oh, no. Unfortunately, we do get a little too close to Pluto for my liking. I was unfortunately correct. So, right as the end of Mercury retrograde, that's the danger zone time because we will have Mercury and Pluto sitting together. And that is around February, looking like February 3rd, February 13th, 3rd through 13th, that 10-day window. That's the period of time where words can get even harsher if we're pushing instead of pushing with others instead of looking within. If we're trying to sort stuff out externally instead of internally. The external outpacing of what we're resolving internally, that's going to come in March and in April. But this period of time between now and mid-Feb is just, it's a little treacherous for conversation. So I'd be wary of trying to force an issue at this point, unless you have to. Okay, let's go back to this. And then the Venus retrograde period is December 19th through January 29th, the most intense parts having been early December through early January. As we get closer to the end of the period, like we're in a small respite now. Let's just see, was that January 29? We're in a small respite period now, but the intensity of it just, it kind of remains because of the proximity of Juno and Pluto. Juno's a higher octave of Venus. Venus begins to go direct, but then she'll have to cross over Pluto again. Let's get a date on that so that you know when to expect it, because that's going to bring that December energy and heaviness back for those of you who experienced it that way. Let's see. Let's get out into the end of Feb, which I think is when we're going to experience that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's the end of February. So again, more tension. And this is basically like the best thing I can liken this to is a portal, a passageway, and a sorting kind of thing. As the nodes have shifted into Scorpio and Taurus, which I'm woefully overdue on a video about that for you guys. Just know that it's coming. The messages have just been like hard to discern around whether they're for annual or they're for the eclipse videos. Because the nodes are shifting into this kind of life or death energy, Taurus being about life, Scorpio being about death. This is just quick shorthand. This passageway with this Venus retrograde talking to Pluto, and Venus and Pluto being the rulers of Taurus and Scorpio, this little passageway is a bit of it's a choice point. It's a 40-day choice point. What are you going to choose? Are you going to live in light or are you going to live in death? Are you going to live in love or are you going to live in darkness? Are you going to repeat some old shit or are you going to do some new shit? Sorry to curse. That's kind of what we're up against here, where, life really kind of has our back against the wall and is asking us, who are we going to be? Because life is benevolent in that if we need to repeat, the sixth grade, life will let us do that. We can do that, no problem. But if we're going to graduate, we need to kind of prove it. And now's the time to do that. So that's kind of the way I'm reading this energy and have been seeing it with clients where, the old stuff has come up for a final test so that you can figure out whether or not you've learned what you said you learned. Okay. We do have Venus trine Uranus and this energy here, which can bring surprises in the third dimension around love or money. And these are good surprises, even if they don't seem great on the surface at the moment, because this is a trine. It's going to seemingly come out of nowhere. It will be the kind of thing that is going to be for our higher good or higher benefit. For some of you, this is like surprise proposals. For some of you, this is like surprise, like bonus money, surprise money that you've just kind of found out of nowhere, maybe from either your home or like you didn't realize you had so much equity in your home. So now you can do certain other things with it. But this looks most like an energy of a surprise of a something coming from the past jumping into the present, something you were dealing with financially or in love from the past jumping into the present. And even if it's uncomfortable a little bit, just trust that it's trying to work itself out for your higher good, even if you can't see it as you're moving through it. We also have Chiron in square to this Venus. There we go. And Uranus trining the Venus. So it is meant to be a healing factor, whatever it is, but it's not going to come without putting you in touch with some of your wounding as it comes up. I was talking with a client earlier, and I mean, this is the way that this kind of energy can work, right? So a couple of weeks ago, she had a meeting at work with someone she's in love with in her place of business. He's left, gone to another organization, but now they're forced to work together on a new project. She decided to go creep on his social media, only to discover how she got in the weeds on this, how much interaction he had been having with his ex. And that came as a shock to her. And it brought up a lot of her wounding, and it brought up a lot of her shadows. She was, trying to tell me that she had given up chasing. And I had to explain to her, if you're creeping on the social, you're still chasing. So, and the work really is about, like, what are we actually searching for? What are we actually looking for when we're doing things like that, when the shadow is coming up, right? So these kind of surprise bits of information, surprise bits of insight, surprise kind of experiences with another person can come up, but they're really asking us, like, okay, how much have you grown? How much have you evolved here? Are you really ready to do a new thing, to have a new experience? And this Uranus is also speaking to Mercury retrograde by square. And again, this just lets us, it echoes back to surprise communication that may come out quite a bit sideways, surprise information that we didn't see coming, surfacing. Yeah. And if conversations are forced because Mercury is retrograde and not really giving Mercury's best, unfortunately, what we get is conversations that then need to be rehashed at a later date, because things can get said that aren't necessarily meant at this time. All right. So if you're able to just hold your tongue, really, and deal with your own triggers at the moment, you're going to come to the conversation from a much more highly evolved place in the next month or two. Okay. We've got Saturn conjunct this Mercury, and this just brings an energy of a real concentration of thought, and deeply wanting to unravel, understand how to work things out in the highest good of all. And again, this is meant to be a more internal energy with Mercury retrograde rather than a joint negotiation at the moment. If you can put off those kind of conversations, do, but if you can't, trust your life, as my teacher Nadia Shah says. Let me just see what else I have here in my notes. Um, I just spoke about the victim consciousness piece, dealing with whatever the issue is at this moment. It's going to be pretty inescapable and pretty in your face. Like the theme of this is going to be pretty loud for you to need to figure out. And it's really about getting to the root, getting to the bottom of things around your own patterning and our own toxicity. Yeah. So that is that is what I got for you guys. The calendar's open. If you want to book time with me, you certainly can, so we can unravel some of this. There's been more space available towards the end of this month if you would like it, or early February. Like I said, we're going to be dealing with a lot of this energy through the end of February. If you're struggling to really understand and unpack what it is for you specifically, in work or love or money, then by all means hit me up and we can start to tease this out so that you're not in a place where this energy is running you and you are running from it, but instead you can up level this year. Okay. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for your likes and your subscribes and your shares. If you heard something that resonates and you're new, please subscribe and hit that like button. Helps the content circulate. Thanks so much. Bye for now.